Hello and welcome to this week's Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson here with Kay. And what have you been reading this summer, Kay?
Well, as always, I've been reading quite a bit. And I just finished the new one by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. Okay. It's called Old Bones, and it's about the Donner Party. And
cheery topic.
Yeah, for those who remember their history, the Donner Party ate each other. They got stuck in a snowdrift and died. They actually I mean, they're famous because they ate each other and survived. Well, the book is
some of them survived.
Yeah, some of them.
Not everybody.
Yeah, not everybody. Some survived and some became prime rib. So just. But anyway, the name of the book is Old Bones.
Okay.
And it stars, the protagonist is Nora Kelly, and she has been in several of the Pendergast books. But this is now a new series starring her.
Okay.
And she's recruited. She's now working at a world famous museum in New Mexico, Arizona, and she's recruited to lead the dig to go find the Donner Party. Because apparently the Donner Party split into two groups, and they have now found the second site.
Is there still a Donner Party living out there somewhere?
Well, I don't know, but they did find all sorts of bones and were able to assemble skeletons.
Ah, well, that's okay.
So it is pretty. It's an entertaining book in the sense that it's an interesting approach to the whole thing. Why they wanted to dig up the bones, so to speak. But it's good, and for those who are fans of Pendergast, he does make an appearance toward the end.
Okay.
And then there's a new book featuring him coming out in February called Crooked River.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen in the news every once in a while, feet show up on shores. Well, that's sort of the takeoff, and then they have to kind of figure out what's going on. So it should be interesting. So what have you read, Elizabeth?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks, but I have also had some time to read in between all of the packing and unpacking and moving and organizing, which has been nuts. But I read I thought there were 3 books available in this series when I started it. And I think it's a trilogy, actually. So I started reading them because I was like, oh, I can listen to all these audiobooks and bang out the series and be fine. The third one's not out yet.
Oh.
So the series is called the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. And Truly Devious takes place at this super kind of elite, kind of hard to get into school that kind of balances out rich kids with poor kids, pretty much anybody who can figure out how to apply. Because they don't say, like, this is what you have to do to get in. So you have to be smart enough to get into the school. It's the sort of thing.
So is this like a young adult book?
Yes. And so it's a lot of sort of puzzles and games, and it's sort of the background. But there was, right after the school opened, there was somebody kidnapped the headmaster's wife and daughter, and then they disappeared. And the letter that was left was signed Truly Devious, as saying that's the bad guy. So you go forward in time, and the protagonist is a teenager, and she's a very interesting character. She's trying to solve this kidnapping. So that's the whole reason she wanted to get into the school.
Okay.
And so she's trying to solve this, but she's very different because she immediately, that she has anxiety issues. She's always talking about her panic attacks or making sure she has enough of her meds. She's also a true crime junkie, so she's listening to podcasts, or she has all these true crime books that she's been reading. And when she's talking about the different podcasts she's listening to, they're actual, like, podcasts you can listen to, because she'll be like, I needed to study, so I put my headphones in and listened to My Favorite Murder. And it's like, I know that one.
Okay.
And then it's interesting to see the way she interacts with all the different kids. And then, of course, because you can't just look into the past and not have anything bad happen, bad things start happening at the school, and they carry over into the second book in the series. They move really quickly. I really enjoyed them, and sometimes young adult books can get a little trite. They kind of follow that same. And this one was pretty different. A lot of diversity of characters. They have a character that identifies, I think probably they use them, is it them, their pronouns, I think it is. So they refer to it that way, and then so there's a lot more diversity among what the different characters are like. So it's not just your standard one that follows along. So it was really interesting. I went through them really quick. They were quick reads, or listened to, as I guess.
So you've done 2, but the third one
I've
is not
done
yet.
2, and the third one has not come out yet, and I gave up looking, waiting for it, because it was hard because when I went on Goodreads to look up and see when it was coming out, there's like 3 different copies of it, and all 3 of them have different published dates.
So
it's like 3 different people tried to update the system and didn't have the right information.
Well, that would be annoying.
Yes, and then I also finished by Joanne Fluke. I read the 4th book in her Hannah Swenson series, which was The Lemon Meringue Pie Murder.
Was it tasty?
Well, she made a lot of a lot of food, and it was really good. But following the same line it always does with Hannah, she lives in a small fictional Minnesota town called Lake Elmo. She owns a cookie restaurant, a bakery, and on Fridays they've started making pies. So they made a lemon meringue pies, and she goes out to check on this house that her boyfriend Norman has bought, and there is a lemon meringue pie in the middle of the table with 1 piece missing and a dead body in the basement. And her mother finds the dead body this time. So then her mother feels it is her job to solve the murder.
Ah, okay.
So she wants to do it, and everybody wants Hannah to help solve it. And Hannah's told the police she won't do anymore. And the police, and so she's all these people are trying to get her to solve this, and she's like, well, I can't.
Did she promise she would stay out of it?
She promised she would stay out of it, but in true cozy mystery fashion, you don't stay out of it, and you try to solve them. And I mean, it's the same kind of flow of the other books, but lots of good recipes.
Did you make anything from it?
I haven't, but I haven't really we've been moving, so I haven't had time to do any baking or that sort of stuff. What else have you been reading?
I reread John Sanford's Deep Freeze, which has my favorite character, Virgil Flowers.
Okay.
And the book starts out where this group of high school graduates are together because they're planning their 25th reunion. And one of the guys has always been in love with the woman who's hosting this little meeting.
Okay.
So this is going to be his big move. So he has a bottle of champagne in the truck chilling, and when everyone leaves, he leaves with the group, and then he gets a bottle of champagne. He comes back in. She goes off, and he's an exterminator by trade, so she wants nothing to do with Bug Boy. And he accidentally swings the bottle and conks her on the head, and down she goes for the count.
Oh.
So now we have a dead body. So he stages it so it looks like she falls down the steps. Well, a couple days later, it comes out that they find a body in the river by the where the sewer, where the
Runoff.
Yeah, the
Drain.
runoff is.
Drainage.
Where it's warm.
Yeah.
And the ice is open, and her body's there.
Okay.
So, of course, he can't figure out how the body got there. Who moved the body? That's the question. So, the fictional town is in southern Minnesota, and it's called Tripton. And Virgil was there for an earlier book when he had to arrest the entire school board because they were embezzling money from the school district, and they were murdering people to keep it quiet. And so they all ended up in jail, among many other things he was doing. So this time, there's always at least 2 things he's doing. So he gets roped in to helping an investigator who's there for the Mattel company because somebody is sabotaging Barbie dolls. And they're putting in a voice box, and they're called Barbie O's. And they're Barbies with the big O, and it's like, no, woo, woo. And Mattel wants it stopped. So she's chasing... This woman is in town trying to find the creators of the Barbie O's.
Yeah.
And Virgil, meanwhile, is trying to keep her sidetracked because the Barbie O's, they're selling so well that they're giving people jobs who don't have jobs. So they want to kind of keep it, but they can't because it's Mattel's after him, because you
Yeah.
don't apparently do anything with Barbie.
Yeah.
And then Ken, they also had Ken in there. You don't want to know what.
I don't want to know all about Ken.
But the book's good because then the bug boy ends up, he pulls it off, but then in the end
They always get caught.
they always get caught. But it's called Deep Freeze. It's by John Sanford, and it's a good book.
Oh, good. I just finished this one called Chase Darkness with Me.
Now you met that author, right? You had your picture taken.
I did. I got to meet this author. So it's Chase Darkness with Me, How One True Crime Writer Started Solving Murders. It's Billy Jensen. I can even show you my fun little, he spelled my name right. He signed it for me. Yay, I'm a nerd, I'm a big geek. My husband took me down and didn't have any seating. But it was funny because we got there, and so, there's this huge line all the way down.
Was this at the
Hennepin.
Mall of America?
No, it was at,
Once Upon a Crime?
no, it was an independent bookstore down on I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up. Is it in here still? I had a bookmark in here for it. Is it like Mages and Quill Booksellers?
Oh, it could be.
It's an independent bookstore down on Hennepin, and they do both new and used books, and they actually have a lot of author visits. And so I got there, and it went from there all the way down the street to this Thai restaurant where the guy's like, why is everybody standing in front of my restaurant and nobody's coming in? So we got down there, and there wasn't any seating left, so I was going to be standing on the side, and we're all standing there waiting, and somebody up in front was like, oh, they saved 4 of these for press, and I'm the only one here, so if anybody else wants to come and sit. And everybody else is doing that Minnesota nice, like, oh, no, I'm fine standing here. Oh, no, I'm fine here. And I was like, I'm sitting down right there.
So did you just shove your way in?
I just wandered my way up, and one other girl came up, and so we're sitting down, and so I'm here, and his seat was like right here, like 3 feet in front of me. So it was a good, so he did a talked about the book, kind of about.
Now, is this his first book?
First solo book about himself. There was a book that came out called I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara about the Golden State Killer, and I've talked about that book on a previous episode, and she passed away, Patton Oswalt's wife. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she passed away and didn't finish the book. And he and can't think of Bobby Haynes, I think or Billy Haynes or something like that was the other guy's name, helped finish the book for her and then released it. And then now the person they believed to be the Golden State Killer was caught with familial DNA. And so he's in prison. And so that's the first major book he helped write. But he has been, he started out as he wrote stories about the hockey season, focusing on the fights that broke out during the different games, and would sell them to different places. And then he grew up in New York, and he was working there. And then the Times called because they needed someone to go out and cover a crime. And so he got pulled into it that way and then started writing. And he decided that he didn't like writing unsolved. He didn't like writing stories with no endings. He didn't like that the bad guys were getting away. And so he decided to start trying to solve them. And so he became this true crime journalist. And he does a lot of stuff with social media, started doing a lot of stuff with social media, paying for ads and different campaigns and trying to putting out information and solving cases.
Has he been successful?
And yeah, he's solved quite a few, and he has a few that he's still working on. He also does a podcast called The Murder Squad, Jensen and Holes, The Murder Squad. So it's him, Billy, and then his co-host is Paul Holes, who was he led the team that did the research for the Golden State Killer.
Okay.
So he was the head of like the forensic and crime piece.
Okay.
Well, he's now getting his own TV show on Oxygen. But they do this podcast every week where they talk about unsolved crimes, and they'll either talk to an investigator involved in the case, or they'll talk to a family member, and then they give all the information out to the people listening, and then try to see if they've just started using the phrase citizen detectives. So everybody that tries to solve these cases, putting out information, giving pictures, trying to reach out and see if anybody else can help find leads. And so it's been interesting because in his book, he talks about a case called the Allentowns 4. And this was a case where there were bodies that were found in these barrels and they couldn't identify who they were. And then actually, I think within the last couple of months, they've now identified who they were.
Oh, through DNA?
Through the DNA, but this was a case he's worked on and he's talked on different things. So it's interesting to see because at the event he talked about how, you know, he's like, well, now I have to go back and rewrite a few chapters because when he finished some of these stuff, they didn't know who did some of these, and now they've solved a few since his book came out. Because originally it was just released as an audiobook form on Audible, and then they printed it.
Okay.
So kind of backwards. He did, and it's interesting because there's a couple parts where he talks about one of the people he was looking for went to Mexico, and he's like, well, I'm never going to find this guy in Mexico. So this police officer sent him the picture, and he goes, oh, this is going to be an easy guy to find because he's like 5'5", white with bright red hair.
Well, that would stand out.
And he's like, well, I'll be able to find him. So, but so he did a posting in Spanish, and he doesn't speak Spanish. So he would like wrote out what he wanted to say, and then he put it into Google Translate, and then sent it to the detective to have the detective's friend who spoke Spanish make sure it made sense. But what he talked about at his book talk was that Amazon wouldn't bring in anybody to read the Spanish parts of his book. So he had to read them himself. And like he said, he's like, I took Italian. I didn't take Spanish in school. So he said he'd have to say like 3 words. And then they had to, through the miracle that is digital technology, they could piece it all together. But apparently I haven't listened to the audiobook, but apparently it's very painful. So as you can tell from how much I've talked about it now, I would recommend it. And actually 20% of all of the proceeds from every book he sells is going towards unsolved crimes to solve them. And I think also some of it's going towards a program called End the Backlog, which is getting DNA kits and different things that are sitting on shelves, run through machine.
Processing?
Yes, processed, yes. So he's working on it.
So you would recommend
I would recommend it. It was a very quick read, even though Tom will tell you, he's like, I thought you'd read that in one day. And I was like, we've been moving. I don't have time to sit and read.
And it was a real book, not an audio book.
And it was a real book, yes. I mean, I got through quite a few audiobooks. I got through the 10th, 11th, and 12th book in Dorinda Jones's Charlie Davidson series. So each of those are The Curse of the 10th Grave, 11th Grave in the Moonlight, and The Trouble with the 12th Grave. They're all good. They still follow that same. They're classic Charlie with her candor and whatever her sarcasm drips everywhere. But this is where I get into my issue with wait lists again, because I am now on hold for the 13th book for the next 6 weeks. And I don't know what happened, because I started this series and all of the books were available. And then all of a sudden I got to like the 8th or 9th book, and some other people started coming out of the woodwork wanting to read these later books. And so then all of a sudden I'm waiting behind 2 people, and I was like, I haven't been waiting behind anybody up until this point, and now I'm stuck.
So then is this the new book?
This is the 13th book will be the final book in the series. And then I'll be done with Charlie Davidson and her son of Satan husband, Reyes Alexander Farrow.
And well, that's too bad that you have to wait.
That's okay, but it's one of those things where you're just like, do I want to buy it? I don't really want to buy it, because if I buy the 13th book, then I need to buy the other 12 because I'm a completionist.
Oh yeah, well that would be bad.
So, and I don't own any of the other ones, and it's like, well, I don't really want to read this one since I've listened to all the other ones on audiobooks, because the lady that does the audiobooks does a great job. And you can just tell, I think her name is like Lorelei Kennedy or something, but she does a fantastic job. And you can just tell she enjoys reading these characters. And in the 12th one, her friend Cookie just steals the show. She's so funny. There's one part where Charlie needs to sneak out of the house without getting caught by the FBI because she's gone and talked to a mob boss that she wasn't supposed to talk to. And so she asked Cookie to make a distraction, and instead of just, calling in a fire all of a sudden you have Cookie pole dancing off a light pole in the middle of the parking lot while her husband comes walking up.
And he's wondering what she's doing.
Well, and it's so funny because, so Charlie should be taking this moment to leave, and the next thing she says is, I doubled over my steering wheel in laughter trying to get a picture. So she's laughing. She's supposed to be escaping.
And her friend's trying to create a
pole
distraction.
dancing around a street light, yes. So, I mean, never a dull moment with Charlie Davidson and her crew. So I do recommend that as well.
Can you get them in hardcover? Or can you get them at the library?
I am not sure. I've only gotten them in the audiobook form through Libby, but I haven't yet.
The library app.
Through the library app. I've gotten them that way. So I would assume you could, to me, this is sort of similar to like a cozy mystery, so I would assume they're probably in paperback, but I don't quote me on that. Mysteries like these are normally in paperback before they're in hardcover.
True. Usually that's how it, if they even go into hardcover.
That's true.
And so the key to these books would be to ask the librarian wherever you might.
Either that or check your library catalog, online catalog. Unless you have one of those card pull-out ones, then you could do that too. If they're all old school.
I don't think they have those anymore.
You never know. Well, somebody said that when their mom retired from being the school librarian, she took home the whole A drawer of the card catalog because they weren't using the regular catalog anymore. So she just took the A drawer with all the folders in it when she left.
What was she going to do with that?
I don't know. She wanted the A's from the card catalog, so she got to take it with her when she retired. I don't know.
Yeah, they don't have card catalogs anymore. It used to always be fun to go through those little cards looking.
Yeah. What else have you been reading? I've been doing a lot of talking, so it's your turn.
Oh, my turn. Well, okay, what have I read? Let's see. Well, I stumbled upon a new series.
Oh, I know that's going to be good when you look at it and just laugh.
Well, it's called Stranded in Provence.
Okay.
It's by an author named Susan Kierman Lewis.
Okay.
And anyway, it's about this woman. Her name is Jules Hooker. And she doesn't like her last name because of the obvious reasons. So she never wants to give it. And so she just likes to go by Jules. Well, Jules finds out, she thinks her boyfriend's going to propose. So she's all ready. And as a surprise, she did an exchange of her condo with an apartment in Provence. And so she figures they can go there for their honeymoon, and she's just all excited. Yeah. Well, he actually breaks up with her. And so now all of a sudden there she is. So she decides she will go to Provence and check this out. So she leaves her high-end condo in Atlanta and goes to Provence, and it's not actually in this town that she thought. It's in this tiny little town that's sort of a one-horse wonder. And the apartments, she thinks it's prehistoric. And so she's there, she's hating it. She just can't even believe how badly her life's going. So she books a plane to go home the next day. So she's got 24 hours to kind of pull it together and enjoy where she is in south of France. Well, in the meantime, there's a dirty bomb that's set off over the Mediterranean, EMP pulse, and it fries all the electronics. So all of a sudden, she's back in the 1940s, and she can't leave. And there's no cars, there's no electricity, and she's in her prehistoric apartment with all these people who speak French, which she does not. And she finds a dead body, of course, in the garden. So she decides she's going to become a private eye, because she's got to find a job. So she's going to become a private eye. She does not speak French, and she has no clue what she's doing.
Oh gosh.
But so that's the first book, and that one is called Parlez-vous Murder. And then there's Crime and Croissants and Accent on Murder.
Okay.
And in the meantime, she kind of hooks up with the chief of police, but then she gets an opportunity to leave. There's like an opening on a cruise ship. Well, they don't want her to go because they think she's going to be in a human auction in the Middle East or something, that they'll kidnap people off this boat. So they don't tell her. So that creates all sorts of problems. So she ends up living in this, moving out of the apartment because the owner's cousin takes it over. So now she has no place to live. So she and these two 90-year-old women who worked in the resistance during Nazi when Nazis took over Germany, she and those two move into this like 1,000-year-old house and they take it over, and so the three of them are doing just fine here. But it's really pretty funny, and the mysteries aren't too bad. And it was a free book on Kindle Unlimited.
Gotta love them free books.
Yeah, and so I don't know if you can get it as a hardcover or softcover or anything. I just know I got it as an ebook.
Okay.
And I thought they were fun because Jules has a great sense of humor. I mean, she's into designer clothes and she's forever dressing up. She really has nowhere to go other than the market.
Okay.
And this woman in the market who sells cheese, like, befriended her right away, only to find out that she looks just like her husband's ex-wife.
Oh.
And her friend is positive she's going to run off with her husband, so she wants to befriend her, so she won't do that.
Oh, okay.
Well, the husband apparently is not that good looking, and Jules says, no problem, not running off with your husband.
Oh. Well, that's
But
good.
it's pretty funny, and the two women who were in the resistance during World War II actually saved Jules when she's being held captive.
Oh, gosh.
There's a knock at the door, and there they are with their rifles that they've had hidden under the bed for 40 years, and they save her and save the day. So it's a pretty
that's good.
So so I would say that if you're looking for some, it's cozy with a twist.
Yeah.
I
Those
would
are
say
fun.
Stranded in Provence is kind of fun because it's south of France. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Great food. Lots of good food in this book. No recipes,
There's
though.
always good food.
There's wine and olives and cheese and bread and all this good stuff.
Okay.
So, so in fact, Jules is worried she will not fit in her designer clothes at the rate she is going with the cheese and the baguettes.
Yeah.
So, but that one was good. That was fun. That was a fun book.
Good. Well, and on that
books.
note, we've come to the end of our time this week. So join us in a couple weeks for the next episode, and we'll see you then.